Hello and welcome to our Champions League quarter-final preview show. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson, joined by John Townley in France as Aston Villa head to PSG in the first leg. John, how's things, mate?
Yeah, doing very well, thank you. Arrived late last night. It looks like I'm in a bit of like a holding cell or something. It's all good.
You've been up to no good already.
It's like 20 degrees outside, lovely stuff. I'm going to walk to the Eiffel Tower later. Never been to Paris, so yeah. Have you been to Paris before then?
No, I've been to France, but not to Paris, yeah.
Not to Paris, yeah. So I've never seen the Eiffel Tower and stuff like that. So looking forward to it. Probably do a little walk and talk after the Luis Enrique press conference later this afternoon. And then Emery will be talking to the media from about, 7 p.m. UK time, something like that. So yeah, bit of a busy day today. And then obviously the game on Wednesday.
This is our PSG preview, of course, the first leg of Champions League quarter-final. I have to keep saying it to almost believe that this is happening. Just to explain a little bit about what's to come for you as well. Obviously, the game is tomorrow, but you're there from a work capacity. You're going to speak to Unai, speak to Luis Enrique, some players as well. What an experience for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's strange because how many away games have we had this season in the Champions League? Is it 5? Yeah, 4 in the
4 and then Bruges. Yeah.
And then obviously last season we had about 5 or 6 again in the Conference League. So it's all pretty like normal now, which is obviously a bit, a privilege to kind of say that. Just doing it once would have been fine, but no, it's and I said to someone actually, who did I say? I can't remember who I said it to, but this is kind of like the first, in my opinion anyway, like big away trip, if that makes sense. Like Ajax is probably the biggest club we've played away from home, I think, so far. Obviously Leipzig were our pot 1 opponents, but it's Leipzig. They were made about 10 years ago. The stadium was really impressive, but there's no real history with that club. In PSG, that's something much more to kind of get your teeth into, and like this is going to feel, and it does feel, but once you get into it, and tomorrow on match day as well, I think it's going to hit you of like, oh wow, this is really this is huge. So yeah, really looking forward to it. I'm only excited, to be honest. I have no feelings of this may change in the space of hours. I have no like feelings of trepidation or like, oh no, arrogance. I'm just happy to be here.
I like that attitude. I've got some kind of notes or structure for this episode because I think it could be quite a long one. Spoiler alert, me and Mat Kendrick spoke about it yesterday while we were in the office, which will be in this episode as well, so we'll get to that later. But the next point I had was nervous or excited. What side of the coin do you fall upon? And I'm with you. It's the opportunity, isn't it? This is what we're here for. This feels like the Champions League proper. It feels like everything up to this point was like a qualifying round of some stage. Like this is proper stuff, knockout football. A team that's never won it before but absolutely has aspirations to do so, and they'll feel like they've got a really good chance this year. This is what we're here for. This is the games that Emery wants to play in, the games that the likes of a Martinez want to play in, and what they'll relish, and what an opportunity and something to be excited for.
Yeah, 100%. Because for me, it feels like we've had already such an incredible journey and I said this to my dad, who, going to the second leg, and I'm sure every Villa fan of course, but also fans that can't make it to the first leg in Paris and they've got tickets for the second leg. We're all so desperate to have that Villa Park atmosphere that we're only a goal behind, or we're level, or dare I say we're leading. We're craving that so badly. So that's for me the only trepidation of like, well, I just hope that we can keep the tie alive, basically, for the second leg. That's my only kind of worry. But even if we don't go through and we do lose by margin or whatever, okay. Like, we've done so well just to get to this point, and I think you have to remember that we haven't just thrown all our eggs into the Champions League basket. We compete in the Champions League again. We're in the FA Cup semi-final. Like, this has been an incredible season so far, and I know you and Matt were talking about if it ended now as such, is it a failure? And I understand the question, but that's hard to kind of grasp because it's not over yet. We don't know what's going to happen. But the position we're in now, if you offered us this at the start of the season, good God, I don't think there would be one single fan who would have said no. There can't be, surely.
There's a couple of narratives around this game. There's 2 that I want to highlight. I think, again, to preview the section that's coming up later, me and Matt spoke about Emery's return to PSG, so we'll save that for you and I. Obviously, you'll be able to speak to him later. Emi Martinez. returning to France is just peak cinema, isn't it? This is what he will absolutely be living for. He's still got the he still did have, at least for the Forest game, had the Argentina flag in his hair, rattling Paris already. Obviously with Lille last year, the penalty saves, and he knows, and he's spoken about this, that he's going to get booed and the attention will be on him, and he'll crave that and relish it because it takes it away from his teammates, and he absolutely can handle it. And if he gets the opportunity to do a little jig in front of the PSG supporters because he saved a penalty, or we've kept a clean sheet, or whatever it is, he will absolutely live for that moment. And if that can be of benefit to Villa, I can't wait to see what he does over there.
I know. It gets me, like when the little game was happening, you kind of just admire the aura of the man.
Yeah.
Pelters, and he has the balls just to turn around to the Lille fans and give it that. Like, what are you doing, you madman? You want a yellow? I
saw the interview he did with Jamie Redknapp at Bodymore before Forest in the build-up to Sky's coverage, and he was saying, like, in the penalty kind of housery, he'll only partake in that if he's already saved one, which I'd not really noticed before. No. If it's a penalty mid-game, like obviously he's not had the chance to save one, and he'll still kind of do a little bit of need, or the Bruno Fernandes Ronaldo one at Old Trafford a couple of seasons ago was obviously the first penalty of the game, but he's still giving it something. Yeah. But in a shootout, he'll only kind of talk back or start to try and edge the opponent if he's already saved one, which I quite like. I've done my bit, I've done part of it, but I'm going to back myself to try and do it again, and now that's the time to wind you up.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I believe him, to be honest. I'm pretty sure I've seen shootouts where he's giving it verbal already, but I mean, maybe that's true. I remember the Colombia one when he's telling Yerry Mina he's going to eat him up and all sorts. I don't know if he's telling the truth. Maybe that's a new thing. Maybe that's correct. So nothing that I've kind of noticed. It's weird because Martinez's penalty record in game isn't like incredible. Like there's some goalkeepers, was it Paul Robinson? Maybe someone else. He would not always save penalty, but likely they'd save a penalty. Some keepers just had that in them. Martinez has it, but in the pressure moments, and what he was talking to Redknapp about in terms of like looking in their eyes and the little still like shaking it, putting the ball down. Yeah, because everyone knows it's Martinez. Martinez is a global figure. He's not, a Premier League goalkeeper who, he's decent. Everyone knows it's Martinez. Everyone knows he's probably the biggest house in football. Like, it just brings trepidation and it strikes fear into people. So something that you mentioned actually on the Q&A about, I think it was a bit flippant in terms of like, we don't actually have to win these games, And I was like, yeah, true. And I thought, yeah, that's true. Like, we don't.
We can draw every game and then win a penalty shootout 3 times.
No, we have a massive advantage if it goes to penalties. So that's kind of infused me a bit more of, well, actually, we don't have to win these games. Obviously, it helps just to get over.
Do you reckon anyone's ever won the Champions League by drawing every quarter-final, semi-final, and the final, but winning 3 shootouts?
Well, I don't know about Madrid, but just in terms of this PSG game, all we've got to do is draw it, because I do think we would go through afterwards. I know they beat Liverpool on penalties, but I'd back us in a penalty shootout. Martinez will be key. He'll get lots of abuse. He'll take it. Hopefully it doesn't kind of go overboard, but I think there's a big running track in the Parc des Princes. They're not, so it's not as if anyone's going to get close to him. I think someone made a good point on Twitter. Don't know who it was. Sorry if this was you. It's probably a few people that mentioned that Lille is kind of like, it's on top of you, whereas PSG is more not the case. But then I also heard someone saying that the PSG atmosphere is like one of the best that there is.
Yeah, Fletcher was saying that.
Yeah, Fletcher, of course, yeah. So I'm interested by that because it doesn't appear to be that kind of stadium.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see Emi Martinez doing laps of that running track at the end of the game. I won't put it past him. The other narrative I wanted to discuss quickly is Asensio. Obviously, there's still some kind of doubt about, can he actually play? Yes, he can. We've spoken about this a few times, that the rules are different for loanees in Europe. He can play and will play some part at least. We had a couple of questions for the Q&A that I've saved for this that were specifically about PSG. So Ulster asked, does Unai start Asensio away in Paris? He's brought in for big game experience, which this is, but I think he'll go with workhorses like McGinn, Kamara and Tielemans. Now, I don't want to do the full predicted 11 here, but just on Asensio, even if he doesn't start, I said to you before when we knew we were going to play PSG, that the 2 players we've already discussed, Martinez and Asensio, have that star quality that if Villa are going to progress to the semi-final, Martinez is going to have to do something special, and he'd back Asensio to do the same.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But it's kind of dampening, as you've just read out there. I'm not sure if he'll start this game. I don't know if we can. I don't want to say carry a player like that, because all we've got to do is put it into his feet and then the ball's gone in behind and we're in. So it's going to be a very interesting one to see what Emery does. But I do tend to agree that Ramsey on the left, Rodgers, McGinn feels more secure. And by the way, we're going to have to keep it tight. If we can see twice in the first 30 minutes, it's a bit, a bit ominous. So for me, I would probably leave Asensio on the bench, bring him on if we are 2-0 down after 60 minutes. We're probably going to need a goal here, or at least try to score a goal. So Asensio, bring him on, change it up. Watkins or Rashford, whoever's not starting, comes on, that sort of thing. But yeah, in the Villa Park leg, I think that's when you probably see Asensio shine.
Yeah.
I think that's when a bit of star quality will show at Villa Park. So it'll be a different game. PSG will probably dominate the ball again at Villa Park, but we will have opportunities. I've absolutely no doubt about that. And we'll go on to it later. But PSG are obviously without one of their key players for the first leg. That's something that I think it's gone a little bit under the radar. Their attacking lineup is like phenomenal, but defensively they're still obviously strong. But I do think Villa will have a chance. Maybe one more chance than what Liverpool got, and obviously they scored with theirs.
Yeah, I mean, just looking through the PSG side, which we'll do it in a second, but this is not to say PSG are bad. I saw there was a PSG podcast or whatever took a load of Villa podcasts and was like listening through them and reacted to them, and he took ours. The episode that we did is something like, PSG are good, but don't underestimate Villa. We had that chat just after the Bruges second leg, and this PSG fan was saying like we were all the Villa fans were like arrogant to suggest that we even got a chance, which obviously I don't agree with. Of course we got a chance, but of PSG's 11, if you break it down to keeper, defence, midfield, forwards, the defence to me is their weakest area. And that's not to say that they're bad defensively, but their midfield and forward line are noticeably better for me. Before we get into any other chat, I want to tee up the section that me and Matt did. So we recorded our Q&A in the office on Monday. We also did a little PSG preview as well. So here's 10 minutes or so of Kendrick's thoughts on the game. Thanks, previous me and John Townley. We're in the past talking about PSG. I wanted to get your thoughts as well. Obviously, it's such a huge game. We did a predicted 11 inside the Q&A that we already uploaded on Monday. How do you feel about the game, though? Is it kind of more on the nervous side of what we might achieve, or is it excitement of, well, it doesn't matter if we lose, it's just the occasion?
I'm glad that we're playing the second leg at home, because I think it gives you a chance to salvage or to build on what you've got in the first leg. But it also gives me, as a non-travelling European away day man, it gives me a sense that I can't influence it. Probably me moaning and groaning from the top of the Trinity doesn't influence much anyway, but I've got a watching brief rather than participating, so I'm really nervous. I know we've had some good feedback about the interview that I did with Darren Fletcher from TNT Sports. Always just kind of cranks it up, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's very good at giving you a rounded view in terms of what it means for Villa, but also that little bit of insight into the opposition as well.
What I love from that interview is almost at the end where he's like, I've said it before, if they beat PSG, I'm telling you now, they're only going to be a harder game. It's like, you know what, Darren? Yeah, I'm up for it.
It was a great kind of like rallying cry, and look what you've got in store. But it also left me really, really fearful, because he went through, didn't he, all of the areas of the team, and obviously we've seen it with our own eyes, especially in the Champions League this year, particularly against Man City and then against Liverpool. But also, there's this real special feeling and vibe around them at the moment that they've dismantled this superstar element and they're built with a team that's kind of greater than the sum of its parts, in a way. The mentality that Enrique's managed to instill there. Won the title, didn't they? At a canter at the weekend.
Yeah, invincible so far.
Yeah, not beaten domestically in France. And I think they believe that this is their time. And I think they believe that having beaten Liverpool, this is definitely their time. And I don't think they'll underestimate Aston Villa, but I do think that they'll see Villa as a simpler proposition
of course,
than Liverpool, and you can understand that. These are the occasions that we wanted to be involved in. And as much as, when we've played some of the, and this isn't meant to be disrespectful, but some of the smaller, lesser opposition in the Champions League this year, we probably could have encountered those in previous years in the Conference League or in the Europa League. So you're talking about young boys, you're probably talking about Bruges a little bit. this is European football at the elite level, playing teams like Paris Saint-Germain. So I'm really torn between am I excited or am I really, really terrified?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Obviously, when we do a Premier League preview, I'm watching Premier League games anyway, match of the day, whatever, even if not full 90s. But before recording this, actually, and obviously the preview tomorrow that this episode is in, I've watched some of PSG's highlights in the Champions League, and sort of proper team. Like, I know their league phase wasn't anything spectacular, but the game against Liverpool created so many chances in that home game, and obviously lost the match itself, but went to Anfield and won, which probably again goes against expectations of doing it the opposite way around. But Liverpool have kind of given us the blueprint a little bit on how to beat them. You need Martinez to have one of the best games of his career. You need, as Fletch said, I think most Villa players to have one of their best games of their career to even stand a chance of getting anything across both games. Because you might draw one of the games or win one of the games, but ultimately not go through. They've got to play out their skins to get to the semi-final, which of course they can do. For the game itself, as of right this second, with it being a couple of days away, I'm not nervous for it and always thinking about it and what if. Maybe if it was at home first, I would be like that. I'm more nervous of the sense of I want something to be on next week because I'm lucky enough to be going, as you are as well. I've got my ticket, I've paid for it. Yeah. If it's that we've lost the first leg 4-0 or something, you never know, do you? But you'd be going into that game next week thinking this is a bit of a damp squib, and it might be an occasion because we can celebrate what the journey's been and give the lads their dues despite losing and probably going out of the competition. But I'm excited for what that opportunity could be for the home leg if we do draw at the Parc des Princes or we win the game. If we do lose, what kind of margin do you think you'd be happy with? Because no one's going to be happy to lose, but is there a scoreline where you think, all right, I fancy us to maybe be able to overturn that?
I was speaking to my French mate last week, Valentin, who came over to he's interviewed me for RMC Radio. Yeah, so I don't know how the Brummie accent will translate.
Do you reckon they'll translate you?
What, stick me into French?
No, like you'll hear the start of it as you, and then some Frenchman will come over the top and be like,
oh, I'd love that.
J'adore Aston Villa.
I'd love a Frenchman to narrate my life, just in my head. Anyway, I was chatting to him, and I don't give too many spoilers away because I've written this piece that will be published by the time this goes out, talking about what Emery is remembered for. And it was, they don't remember all the silverware that he won because that's just what PSG do. They just hoover up all the domestic silverware anyway. He'll be remembered for that throwaway when they were 4-0 up against Barcelona in the last 16. I can't remember what year it was. 4-0 up, and then they lost 6-1 in the second leg. So, I think if we can keep it to 4, there's a precedent there.
What do they call that?
Le Remon. I don't know. It's in the piece. You'd probably think of 1-0, wouldn't you? I think 1-0 defeat is probably the best of the worst case scenarios.
Yeah, I think you can just about stomach a 2-goal deficit. If we lost the game 3-1 or 2-0, I'd still would go to the Park next week thinking, well, if we can do what we did against Forest and start brightly and score a goal or two very early, same with Celtic, a couple of goals in quick succession, you start the game well, that 2-0 deficit could be overruled by 20 minutes in, and we're back level pegging again. Villa Park would be unbelievable in that case, and I would back us to overturn it from there. Any more than 2, I mean, the same still applies. You could still score yourself early again, but you're still thinking, it may be a bit too far. So a 2-0 deficit, I'd just about stomach. I won't be happy with it, obviously, because you've lost the game and you set yourself up for a difficult game. But anything better than a 2-0 defeat, I'd be buzzing with.
This might sound a really stupid thing to say. What I think the best outcome will be from that first match? A draw. Whether it's a 0-0, probably not a 0-0 because you probably want them to get some of the goals out of the system. So like a 2-all, a 1-1 or a 2-all, so that we've done enough attacking now. And then you come back to Villa Park and you play that as a one-off cup final at Villa Park. So there's no complacency. Everybody knows the task ahead of them. Yeah. You don't get caught between stick or twist if you're 1-0 up or whatever. So it just comes down to that 90 minutes and we do our bit So yeah, let's have a 2-2 or 3-3 the first game. Get all of their goals out of their system, and then
we've not got all of our goals out of our system.
And let's just kind of sneak it 1-0 or something.
Yeah,
at Villa Park.
I'd take anything. A draw or a win would be unbelievable at their place, and you're right. I suppose there would be a sense of, we've got something to hold on to, go ultra defensive at Villa Park, and that probably would cost us, to be honest, because I don't think that style suits us. I feel like we probably need to be chasing a little bit, chasing the tie in some instance. So I don't know. It sounds mad because I don't want to lose.
Like a 1-0 defeat.
But like a 1-0 defeat. Yeah, exactly.
From the off.
Yeah, which probably is counterintuitive. It probably doesn't work like that for professional footballers. But as a fan, I'll be thinking, right, we have to start because we're already down. Whereas if it was level or we were up, you'd be a bit like, well, we've kind of got something here.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah.
But yeah, to draw the game or win at their place would be incredible and set you up for something pretty special. We did a predicted 11 in the, or you did one in the Q&A. Me and John will do one at the end of this video. A prediction before I let you go and go back to future me. What do you actually think is going to happen?
I think we'll lose 2-1, which, from what we've just said, wouldn't be
I'd be okay with that.
Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I think he's just fascinating. I think all the subplots are fascinating. I think Emery going back to PSG, that match that I referenced a minute ago, Luis Enrique was the Barcelona boss. You've got Luca Dean going back there. I don't know whether this will come before or after the 11 that I've selected, but I've not put Asensio in it. So, but the Asensio factor is going to be interesting as well.
Martinez in France.
There's so many subplots.
Rashford's played and scored against PSG before.
Well, yeah. It's quite an appetite wetter, isn't it? Really?
I was trying to think how many of our players would have played at their stadium before, and I've not done any research for this, and maybe I'll correct myself in the rest of the show afterwards, but I was thinking Tielemans probably did with Monaco.
Probably has played in France.
Would have. Rashford has. Asensio obviously has. I think beyond that, that's probably about it, unless there's obviously Luca Dean. Unless there's a rogue shout for Villarreal and Torres played PSG in a game I can't remember, but I can't say that there's probably many. But again, does any of that matter if the manager knows PSG like the back of his hand? Yeah. Which scenario would be better? You've got lots of players that have played there before, or few players, but the manager knows the place well. Does either of those give you any kind of advantage?
I don't think so, really. I think it's pretty much on the night, isn't it? I know I've kind of whipped up some of these subplots. I think one of the things that's going to be a crucial factor as well, and this is something that Fletcher said, something that my French pen friend said, and something that I've interviewed the PSG groundsman as well, a bloke called... I've dusted off the quill, mate. I've enjoyed it, actually. That atmosphere, the Parc des Princes, is going to be something unreal, to be honest. I think it was Fletcher was saying when we spoke to him that, was it the mayor when they played Dortmund? Kind of all bets are off. Any of these rules and regulations, forget it. You can bring flares. You can, They
had some unbelievable banners, tifos or whatever, like fan displays for their game against Marseille recently. I saw that highlights as well. I was doing some Champions League ones, and I saw a league game as well. That I don't know, is that their most recent game? Maybe I don't know. But the pre-match kind of fanfare was incredible. The Villa fans that are going over there, like Fletch said, are in for a treat of like a spectacle, but also like up your game and be ready for showing yourself, because the PSG fans will be brilliant. But if Villa can go there and spoil some of that and nick an early goal or something, it's exciting, isn't it? The more that we started to speak about it, I'm more on the excited side than the nervous side.
Yeah, just referencing my groundsman thing again, it's a great story because he used to be Villa's groundsman, and he's married a Brummie girl who are all Villa fans, and then they've gone across to PSG, and I think his son was 6 when he went over there. He's now 18, and his son's played through some of the kind of academy age groups with Zlatan's son. Oh, right. And it's just like a really, really weird, isn't it, the way that football works? He got the gig because Julio recommended him.
Okay. Wow.
So yeah. So
funny how life works out.
Yeah. I said, what was it like when you told your missus you were going to go to Paris? Did you just think it was for the weekend rather than for life? And he's like, everybody's adopted to the culture, but he's a Northern Irish bloke, this guy John, and he said it just doesn't work when I try and speak French in my accent.
Right, yeah. I love the idea of PSG needing a new groundsman and Gerard Houllier recommending somebody and going, the Villa pitch is pretty good. That's mad, isn't it?
Brilliant, isn't it? But you can read all about it, mate. We'll drop the link into some of the comments.
Right, that'll do, Matt. Thanks for your thoughts on the PSG game. Back to future me and John Townley for the rest of the show. Just a correction in that bit I did with Matt yesterday. We spoke a little bit about which players would have played at the Parc des Princes before, and I got it down to Dean and Kamara, maybe Tielemans and possibly one other, and how much that experience would matter. I said, if I get a chance, I'll actually do the research and find out how many players have played. Have a guess how many it is. I was wrong in the section I did with Matt. It's a lot more than I thought.
So I'll go with Disasi.
Yeah.
Luka Dean, Boubacar Kamara. Marlon?
Yes.
Played PSG last season, was it?
So Maatsen as well.
Maatsen. Oh, cheers.
Yeah.
One more. Asensio. 6.
So I've got Kamara with Marseille, Disasi with Monaco. Obviously, Dean and Asensio played for PSG. Yeah. Tielemans with Monaco. Rashford for Man United. He scored against them. Yeah. Marlon and Maatsen in the semi-final last year, which they won, obviously, with Dortmund. Barkley played there for Nice.
Yeah.
And Onana played 15 minutes there once with Lille as well. How much kind of weight would you put on that experience of players that have played there before? Maybe not at Champions League level, but they've played in the atmosphere. Does it have any bearing for you?
Yeah, I think it does. I think a lot of people are, it'd be very easy to look at Villa and say, oh, they're playing PSG. They haven't been in this stage before. Well, the manager managed there. Half the team played there. Like, I think it's much less of a talking point in terms of the whole Villa are going to Paris. Yeah, like for a lot of people, that's pretty normal in our squad. So I don't see that as an issue like at all. I know it's a Champions League night, it's quarterfinal, and it's going to be loud. Lots of ultras. It'll be very noisy, very colourful. They're going to have flares, all that sort of stuff. It's going to be a great spectacle, but that is why we have to keep it tight for 30 minutes. And, you know, at Villa Park, for example, when we entertain a team on a night game, a lot of those players probably played there like 6 times and know what Villa Park is about. But it's another thing dealing with it for 20 minutes at the start. So it's going to be the same for us. I don't think it's like a big issue, but like any game in any stadium in a quarterfinal of the Champions League, it's going to be loud and you're going to have to manage it. So that's why we have to keep it tight. And that's why I'd much rather have John McGinn running around than Asensio.
Actually, it's an interesting point you raise. Sorry, it's an interesting point you raise about the kind of reverse side of this. If Villa are still in the tie going into the Villa Park fixture next week, without going through all the players and double checking, I can't imagine any of the PSG players have played at Villa Park before.
Great question. Maybe Vitinha for Wolves? Maybe.
Yeah.
Now you've said it, I want to find out. I don't
because it kind of feels a newish squad, doesn't it? A lot of youngsters and stuff that probably haven't got loads of non-European football experience, or say non-European, I mean non-Premier League experience.
Got Neves, Hakimi, none of those guys, Donnarumma, Dembele.
So if Villa are still in the time, we make this massive atmosphere next week and Villa come out and they've got to score a goal or something. I mean, again, how much bearing has it? I don't know. Are the PSG players going to crumble under the side of Villa Park? Maybe. You just don't know, do you? So it's a talking point. We have players that have played there. They don't have any players that have played at our place.
This is the key thing. That's why it's so important. And we all said it previously. The first leg is so important just to stay in the tie. Because if we do, we've got 30 minutes of chaos potential, or not maybe just 10 minutes of chaos at Villa Park at the start, and just go for it. Like what will be sort of thing. And we're just so desperate to have that moment. It'll be such a disappointment if we do get a bit of a spanking in Paris, and then all of a sudden we've got to go back to Villa Park, and it's kind of like we're up for it, but it's more of a campaign. But I don't think that'll be the case. I really don't. I think Emery will have a game plan. Pretty confident that we're not going to be out of the tie after the first leg. Okay, I'm going to tee up you to talk about PSG in a sec. Just a couple of bits of housekeeping. Yellow cards. So Kamara, Dean, Rashford and Disasi would miss the return leg at Villa Park if they were to get a booking at the Parc des Princes, which would be terrible, especially Kamara, I think, out of those 4. Marquinhos for PSG, as you've already touched on, is suspended for the first leg anyway, and Fabian Ruiz is the only player that could be suspended for the Villa Park fixture if he was to get booking on Wednesday night. They get wiped for the semis. So if Villa get through to the semi-final, we don't need to worry about yellow card suspensions any further, which is a nice thing to have, as well as a semi-final to play. You'll have watched some of PSG, as I'm sure we all have, whether that's highlights, full 90 minutes, the Liverpool game, the Man City game, any other games during their league phase. You know, everyone will have different experiences. Liverpool is probably the most relevant, I suppose, because it was the most recent and probably their best performances of the league, of the Champions League campaign so far. Talk to me about PSG and what you've seen and what you're wary of. Yeah, well, I'm no expert on PSG. I've only watched a few games from them, only in the Champions League as well. But the Liverpool game was, I did like a little interview for Canal Plus at Villa Park before the Forest game, and
Okay.
kind of mentioned the whole, well, they don't have the Galactico players anymore, superstars, Messi, and all that sort of thing. But what they do have now is a real team, and I don't think that's kind of news for anybody. The way they played against Liverpool was incredible. They set up in that 4-3-3, but then that quickly became a 3-2-5.
Yeah.
You'd almost rather be a 3-5-2, but no 5. Kind of in the front line, the midfield pairing, Vitinha and Jean Neves, they don't give the ball away, which is a problem. And obviously the back three are very useful on the ball as well. PSG play every single week with complete territory in the opposition half. They are used to picking the lock. This isn't going to be anything new for them if we drop back and defend.
Yeah.
But the fact that Liverpool beat them 1-0 has to give us confidence. And although Alisson had a great game, I think Martinez probably would have saved all those shots as well. So
he has to have that kind of game, doesn't he, Martinez? He has to do what Alisson did.
Yeah, pretty much. They have lots of rotations in attack. So you've got Barcola, Dembele, Kvaratskhelia, Hakimi will come in from the right and push into almost like that midfield or forward space as well. Then the back three can be Mendes, who is usually the left back, but can also get forward very well. Mendes, Marquinhos, and is it Pacho, the centre back? But then if, for example, when Salah played against Mendes, if Salah dropped deep, Mendes would go forward, and then instead you'd have Vitinha drop into a 3. So more chance of Liverpool to break on a counter-attack there, but equally the players are so far back. PSG are happy just to screen a 5, but there's rotations with it, so it's not going to be Luka Digne against Dembele the whole match. It'll be Luka Digne against someone, and then it'll be actual Disasi against someone. That's the kind of frightening bit about it. But yeah, how Villa are going to play against them, I'm fascinated by, because we have this example of the Liverpool match where really they should have been 4-0 up PSG. But how Villa will combat that is going to be interesting, and what kind of system they play, because PSG, again, they're going to have all the possession. They're going to play with the ball, obviously, and the rotations up front will cause us a lot of problems, I'm sure. But how Emery sets up, maybe we kind of match that and put a 5 at the back ourselves and play with wing backs. I'm not too sure. I'd like to see us just play with that 4-4-2 kind of shape, to be honest, and do with a kind of tried and trusted. It feels like whenever we go to a 3 at the back or try and match teams or play in a very specific way like that, like I'm thinking Palace, Tottenham,
Spurs,
it doesn't work. But obviously we've also done it in other games and it has worked. But PSG, if you're going to make a single error, it's going to be punished, most likely. So I'd like us to do a bit more tried and trusted shape. And at home, PSG, they played 21 this season, all competitions. They've only lost twice, Atletico and Liverpool. Only lost by 1 goal in all of those, in both of those games, sorry. And they've only conceded more than once in 3 of those 21 games. So Villa, obviously, if they get a chance, they're going to have to take it. This isn't a situation, I don't think, where we're going to win by 2 goals, put it that way.
But do you not think, though, that the standard is different, that Villa are better than most of the Ligue 1 type teams that they'll be playing against?
True, but PSG have also played the likes of City. As I say, that they've lost to Liverpool and Atletico there. But it's not as if they're conceding goals. I don't know. In a Ligue 1 game, they may have... you still got Marseille, Monaco, Villa lost to, all these other sides, and they've only conceded a goal, apart from one, I think it was in Montpellier, maybe scored against them twice, but they lost 4-2. But the only other thing is, in those 21 games, there's been 9 matches where they've only scored once or not at all. So for as good as they are going forward, it's not as if they either blow a team away or they don't. But blowing a team away, that would be, I don't know, a Saint Etienne or like a lower team who Villa obviously are much better than. So equally, that's why I don't think that we'll be on the end of the thrashing. For as much territory as they have, it's kind of like a Barcelona style. It's Luis Enrique, Barcelona style in terms of they'll kill you by 1,000 cuts, that sort of thing. I don't think they'll blow us away, which is a good thing, obviously, for the second leg. But I do think they'll be wary that going to Villa Park is going to be a new atmosphere for them. It's going to be something that they haven't really experienced before. So they'll want the cushion of a couple of goals. I think, I'm pretty sure of that. If they go 1-0 up, I don't think they'll just take it. I think they'll be going for more goals. So that's something we are going to have to be, wary of.
Nate asks, how do you think Villa set up tactically against a team like PSG, especially with their attacking power? Do we go all out or play it smart and controlled and try to nick a win? Is it more important not to lose?
Yeah.
Lots of questions to that. I think, I don't know, I don't know what our approach is here, because if you go for it and you try and score a couple of goals yourself, you could concede 4 and then you're in real trouble.
Yeah. This tie is not going to be won in the first leg.
But I also think trying to sit in and play a back six this season doesn't suit us. Whenever we first came, we saw, didn't we, lots of players dropping back and having that hard to beat structure. I don't think we quite have that at the moment. I don't think it suits us to play that way either. So going there and going, okay, PSG, you play your game, we're just going to put 10 on the line. I don't think that suits Villa either. So it is difficult how we approach it.
I get that, but I don't think anyone's going to complain at Emery if we do.
No.
For a low. So, yeah, again, this tie isn't going to be won in the first leg. If we win it 2-0, you still go out in the second leg because PSG know they've got to score goals, and that is quite scary in itself. So I don't think this is anything other than the first half of the match, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We just play 2 halves of it. So, yeah, keep it tight, keep it compact. If we lose, I'd like to think it's not by enough goals that we feel like we're done in the second leg.
What would that be? More than 2?
To be honest, I've been thinking more than 1 would be. I think if we're 2-0 down, I think that would be quite difficult to overturn personally. But yeah, 3 would be. Yeah, I think that would be us done. 1, I'd be happy with that. I say happy with that. We can.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
A 1 goal lead in any knockout game is essentially not really a lead. It's a mentality thing, and of just stick or twist and. As well, we've seen previously, like the Lille match, and in lots of different knockout matches, all you've got to do is score once, and already you're back in the game, and it feels like you've got the momentum then. And that isn't something that will worry me at all. But 2 goals, I think, would be difficult because that means you've got to score 3 or 4 goals on the night, really. I think because PSG will probably score themselves. Some of the attacking talent they have. Can I quickly read some numbers? Is that right?
Yeah, go for it.
So the 2 danger men. There's quite a few danger men that PSG have. Dembele, we'll start with him. 30 goals and 8 assists in 40 games. So that's a contribution every game he's played this season. Goals per 90, the first in Europe's Big 5 leagues. Non-penalty goals, second in Europe. Progressive carries, 10th in Europe. So he's quite good for a start. And he'll play off the right and again play in the middle. He's got a license to kind of not roam, but pick up different positions. And again, it's the rotations that are really important for Enrique in the final third. And then how do I say this? Kvaratskhelia, is that it? Everyone knows about, yeah. A player who, when we were drawn against PSG, and something that my brother said, like, I can't wait to see Kvaratskhelia at Villa Park. And it doesn't feel like we've had, obviously we've had Bayern Munich at Villa, but apart from Harry Kane, who is their star player? Is it Kimmich? In terms of a player that doesn't play at Villa Park, maybe Musiala. So, some good players. Manuel Neuer, and obviously that goal with Duran, he's kind of etched into Villa folklore really a little bit now with that goal, Manuel Neuer. So, yeah, to have a player of his quality at Villa Park, like, although we want to win and I want to see the guy play no more than 1 minute and get a red card, that sort of thing, that isn't going to be the case. But to have these players at Villa Park is... it's a kind of subplot. It's nice to see as long as we keep them quiet. But his numbers this season, last season, the season before are just incredible. I'll go with last season's numbers because this season's only played half of campaign for Napoli and for PSG, obviously. So last season, 2nd most shots total in Europe, 4th most successful take-ons in Europe, 5th most fouls won in Europe. Carries into the penalty area, 8th most in Europe. Shots on target in a Serie A 1st. Progressive carrying distance 3rd. Expected assists 7th. Shot creating action 2nd in the Italian league as well. So he essentially ranks in all the metrics that you want of a winger. He's in like the top 10 for the top very small percentile, top 3 in the Italian league, and then in Europe in like the top 10 for pretty much everything that you want. So we're playing against like the best of the best here, like genuinely. You could add obviously a couple of Real Madrid players here, but I would argue that most other clubs in Europe don't have the attacking talent that the PSG have. And obviously you've got like a Barcelona who have Rafinha playing really well, Yamal, Bayern Munich obviously have some great players, and we kept a clean sheet against them. But yeah, these guys are like in red hot form. And although you can argue, oh yeah, but it's only League One. Well, we lost to PSG. We lost to Lille. We lost to Monaco. And we know these guys are doing it at the top level for their nations in Dembele, France, and Kvaratskhelia done it for Napoli, winning a league with them. And as well, it's probably not very helpful that they're scoring goals every game because it means they're in form and they know where the back of the net is. So, yeah, it's going to be, I would say, a daunting task. It's one of those, again, where it's like, well, we're here. It's going to be difficult. Let's embrace it. But we are going to have to play a pretty blinding game defensively to keep.
Yeah. That is the thing. Almost all of Villa players will have to play one of the best games of their career for Villa to get to the semi-finals. And that is, again, should be a kind of tantalising opportunity for all of them going into this fixtures going, if I play at my best level here, there's a chance that we do something pretty special. Like, you have to step up to that level. You talk a lot about the front three there, and obviously that is their danger area. Villa are going to be punished. They play wide. Villa struggle to deal with problems in the wide areas. That concerns me. It's not like they're kind of lumping balls into the box and Mings can just head everything away. It's just well like that. So the front three scares me, but it's the midfield is where the battle is for me. That the midfield three is top level, which probably leads us nicely into our predicted 11, I suppose. So I've got an 11 here, which I kind of did by gut. Like, I just wrote 11 names and kind of thought, yeah, that feels right. But absolutely, I think Matt picks an 11 and you and I will probably all pick different ones. There's some of it that feels like it kind of picks itself after what we saw against Forest. There's obviously players here that didn't play there because they're going to play here, which is something we touched on very slightly in the Forest preview. Will Emery have an eye on the PSG game? And you said no. I said maybe. Not to the extent of 8 changes. I didn't see that coming in. I thought maybe 2 or 3. Shall I read my 11 and my reasonings to you, and then you do yours?
Go for it.
So I've got Martinez in goal, Cash right back, Konsa, Mings and Dean is my back 4.
Right.
Kamara and Tielemans, as per. McGinn off the right. I have got Asensio, which I'm doubting a little bit. But again, I did this on gut feeling. Rodgers left and Rashford up front. Now, my 11 on paper is that kind of 4-4-2 we always play. I don't want us to differentiate and suddenly play a back 5 and try and match them just because, like you said before, I don't think it suits us. Ruiz, Vitinho and Neves most likely are that midfield 3. So I've got McGinn starting right and dropping into midfield with Kamara and Tielemans to match that 3 for 3. Rodgers and Asensio to drift wide if needs be, run centrally if needs be, to kind of float in between whatever areas they can pick up when Villa have a chance. It's on them to be creative with Rashford as well. And any width Villa do have is going to come from Cash or Dean getting forward, because obviously Rodgers and Rashford, Rodgers and Asensio aren't wide wingers. It kind of makes sense, but again, you could give me an 11 now that is slightly different, and I'll go, well, that also makes sense. Like, it's good that Villa have those options, and it does feel like Villa, it's going to be fleeting moments, I feel like, especially in the first leg, if we're going to go forward and have chances to score. I think we'll have chances. How many plural that chances is? More than 1, maybe less than 5. I don't know.
Keeps PSG guessing, doesn't it? As you say,
it does. Yeah.
We could do a couple of things.
Mr. W asked in the Q&A who starts up top against PSG. I've gone Rashford. Would you agree there? Do you want to start forwards and go back?
I think Rashford will start, which, by the way, imagine saying this in like the start of January, quarterfinal of the Champions League, Rashford up front, you'd be like, wait. What's going on here? Yeah, I think Rashford will play, again, because he was on the bench against Forest and he's played in the last 2 away games against, Preston, not PSG, and Brighton. But that Brighton game, again, not PSG, but that was absolutely vital. And he chose Rashford to start that game. So I think he'll play Rashford again. My changes from your team would be Jacob Ramsey instead of Asensio, play Ramsey off the left, Rodgers from the right, just because Ramsey has a bit more. Good God, like Asensio can obviously carry the ball very well, but the way that Ramsey does it in that space of the pitch, he can win a foul, he can keep the ball defensively as well. Obviously, much better than Asensio. Played in midfield for a few years, came through as one as well. So I think that's probably a safer bet. The only other thing I'd suggest is maybe Cash instead of Asensio. Push Rodgers to the left, McGinn central, and then have Cash as your kind of right wing back, essentially. And that can either be a back 3 or back 5, or it can be a 4, and you have Cash maybe higher up and Disasi. at right back. So sorry, Disasi's in my team, by the way. Disasi right back, Conson, Mings, and Dean Martinez midfield pivot the same. And then my only question mark really is what does he do with that third midfielder as such?
Yeah.
I think McGinn and Rodgers will start, and then it's, well, is it Ramsey or is it Cash or is it even Rashford? And then he plays Watkins up front. Not completely sold that he will start Rashford, but I think he will. However, I would rather start Watkins, to be honest, just because of his pressing ability and all that stuff. But that is caveated with, well, is he there?
That's the thing for me.
I've been told kind of an unknown certain terms. There's no physical issue here, but what we're seeing doesn't quite marry up with that. It just doesn't look on it, look quite sharp enough. And maybe this is something because Emery said it himself, actually, at the start of the campaign when he came back from a bit of an injury. He took a little while to get going again, and we can't afford to have a player who's not on it from, for the first minute and in every sequence of play. We need that. But then my only issue is that can Rashford do what Watkins can do? Defensively, no. He can run the channels, of course. That's where PSG may struggle, or where Villa will get joy even. But
if we get a chance like Brighton, and it's one long ball to Rashford over the top, and he scores, and that's our only chance of the game, would Watkins have scored that specific goal that he did against Brighton? I don't think so.
I don't know. I think he probably would.
On current form, I don't think he does.
Maybe not. I mean, Rashford had a good chance himself, didn't he, against Forest? Probably credit the keeper more than anything. Rodgers had one as well, and good save by Sells again. So, yeah, I don't know. I take your point. If a chance falls to anyone, who do you want it to fall to? Probably Asensio, and I've got him on the bench.
The more we speak about it, I think it is probably less likely that Asensio would start the game. I think it's probably not quite the game for him in the sense of how Villa will play, but I'm probably being drawn more into the narrative side of it, like going through the point against your former club.
By the way, he'll be in Emery's ear all day, every day in the lead up to this game because he knows how PSG play. I mean, the only thing, it's not rocket science, is it? Like, just watch them and you'll see. It's about how you stop it rather than, well, what are we going to face? And I do think there is something in, if you're playing against teammates that you know, anyone who's played football, not to that level, but if you play people that you know or have played against previously, you know their weaknesses, you know what they don't want to do. That's the same at any level. I
did a poll before we started. It's got 225 votes of the outcome for Wednesday. I put 4 options. One was just here to see the results, and that's 12%. So take that away from the overall 100. PSG, draw or Villa. The most common answer on my social media, not all Villa fans, I suppose, a PSG victory, 33%, a draw, 30%, and a Villa win, 23%. So pretty close, to be fair, across all outcomes. Probably a little bit of bias in there as well, I suppose. We haven't tracked the Champions League predictions this season. I don't know why. We just didn't, but it's PSG, so let's do it now, okay? So we're going to write them down. Am I going to go head or heart here? What have you done?
Head.
I've written a scoreline down. Whether I believe it or not, I don't know. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. I've gone for 1-1. You've gone for a 2-1 PSG win. I'd take that, by the way. And me and Matt spoke a little bit either on the Q&A or the preview that was earlier in this episode. I think even a 2-goal deficit, I wouldn't be happy with it. But I'd have a feeling of, well, if we can come out the blocks at Villa Park rapid and score twice quickly like we did against Celtic, like we did against Forest, that 2-0 deficit could be level within 15 minutes, in theory. I'm not saying it would happen, but in theory. And it would be, Villa Park would be absolutely rocking. We're back level pegging. Here we go. The momentum is with us. Happy days. A 1-0 deficit, I would absolutely take right now. If you said we'll lose 2-1, I'll say, yeah, fine. I think we can overturn that potentially pretty quickly. And obviously, it's much easier to overturn a 1-goal deficit than it is a 2. Anything above a 1-goal defeat, kind of dreamland to me. If we had a 1-1 or
I meant more than a 1-0 defeat.
No, so less. I suppose less is the right word. Less than a 1-0 defeat. Yeah. So a Villa draw, or if we're coming on to do the post match on Wednesday, me and Matt, and we're talking, I'm putting in the title PSG 1, Villa 3, or something stupid like that. I might just sit there for half an hour in silence, and just like, I can't believe what I'm just seeing.
Yeah, like it's leaving me speechless now. So no, I agree that a 1-0 deficit for me will just feel like the next morning. All right, let's have them. We've competed with them and lost by us. Essentially, we've lost, but it'd
be like being 1-0 down at half time. You'd be right off the second half, would you? In a league game,
one goal either way. If we win 1-0, we draw or lose 1-0. I really don't think it matters at all. Genuinely, I really don't. The Villa Park leg will be a completely different animal. Whereas if we lose by more than one goal, that would be difficult. I do think we'll still have the atmosphere and the moment of like, come on, like if we get the first goal, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
If it's 3 goals, though, I do think that will be more of a let's just enjoy the second leg and it's been a great time kind of vibe.
Let's just see what happens. Be excited about it. Look forward to it. Hopefully, when we're coming on to do the post-match show on Wednesday night, we're talking about something positive. And I do mean a 1-0 defeat there. I'd class that as positive, which sounds crazy. But like I just said, 1-0 down at half-time in a league match at Villa Park, you'd go, all right, well, we'll just go and score 2 in the second half then. So I'd feel okay with that. Anything better than that, a draw or a win would be unreal. So let's just see how it unfolds.
No one wants to talk about Olympiacos right now.
No, definitely not.
But
what?
I'll never forget when Olympiacos lost 4-1 at home to Maccabi Tel Aviv in the Conference League last season, and they go and win 6-1 away, and it's and then they go and win the competition. And I don't think many people even are aware that happened to Olympiacos, but it's told me from like now on, whatever happens, like it's just anything can happen in football. So, that result stuck with me because it's like, well, how the hell did Maccabi Tel Aviv not do that second win overall? They're the reason why we haven't broken our long wait for silverware.
Let's wrap it there, John. Thank you very much for joining me. You go off and speak to the respective managers of both teams, and there'll be a couple of players, won't there, up as well for the Champions League game. So enjoy that. Get some good lines out of them, I'm sure. Just a couple of shout-outs for the 1874 podcast with Dan and Dave Reed. They did a preview show yesterday. There's lots of Villa content out there at the moment, and I've got no qualms about promoting other people's stuff because PSG in the Champions League quarterfinal, like I'm sure people are absolutely just want all kinds of content, so go and catch up with that as well. And the Villa on Tour YouTube channel, they're doing a preview as well. Max and Simon stood outside the Eiffel Tower, which we can't quite compete with that because that's pretty cool. I think that's coming out later on Tuesday as well. So loads of content. Villa on Tour's match day vlog, if we win, by the way. Unbelievable that'll be. So enjoy it. Loads of content out there. That will be here again on Wednesday night for the post-match show, 5 or 10 minutes after full time, regardless of the result. Hopefully it's a positive one. John, thanks for joining me. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Colour Blue podcast, and we'll see you Wednesday.